You need to grow up and start giving things a second try. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Throughout my life, there have been many things that I would start, and then I would stop pretty prematurely, or I'd be too anxious to try in the first place. Like I try once, not like it or something. And what I've learned from that is that oftentimes when I don't like something, I'm going into it with preconceived notions of what it will be like. Now whether that's a movie or an artist or a TV show, which is what this particular video is about. Attack on Titan. When I was younger, in like junior high, I want to say, this was when Attack on Titan was first being released, and there was only one season. Is when I started Attack on Titan. My friend had gotten me into it, and at the time I was a lot more squeamish. And I think, I hear people say all the time where it's like you become desensitized to gore. I don't think I became desensitized to it because, like, if I saw that in real life, I would throw up and then, you know, um, like I would off myself if I saw that shit in real life. It's awful, terrible, disgusting. But I think I've learned to manage my anxiety better and detach my fears from fictional scenarios, right? So it's like this isn't real. Not, like I'm looking at it, but it's not actually happening. It's fake. It's fictional. Whatever. And I've learned to not feel. I think it's helped me to not feel fear about hypothetical scenarios, or like empathizing with a person without like fully applying it to myself as if it's actually happening. And when it comes to Attack on Titan, it's if you've seen it, very gory show. I mean, it's brutal. And the first two seasons in particular are very just doom and gloom. it's if something can go wrong, it does, and then something else also goes wrong. And it's like every time you think something good is about to happen, it falls apart, and it's just hopeless. And that never made me feel good. And even giving it another shot, it's still the first couple seasons. Really, I just felt bad the whole time. I was like, this just sucks. Not like it was poorly made or anything, because it's incredible. I will say, after rewatching it, 10 out of 10. It's an incredible story. It's very well done, but it's very depressing. It's hard to watch at times, and when I was younger, I couldn't handle it. It was too much, and I've gotten to this point where I'm a lot more. I'm able to tolerate gore and stuff, especially in animation. I still struggle with like live action stuff. That's still really rough for me. But Attack on Titan has a lot of themes of like war and a cycle, like the cycle of hatred and in prejudice, right? There's this group of people who are seen as by the entire world as devils, and they're being blamed for the transgressions of their past, and being told it's like, well, this is on you, have to atone for what your ancestors did, which isn't fair to those people, right? But everything that happens in that show, although it's, there's titans and it's very not realistic in that sense. It's very like sci-fi. Um, Titans don't actually exist and all that, but people exist. And that's like the end kind of result of all this is like the enemy was never really the Titans. The enemy was the humans. And that's very realistic. That's real life. And people going to war over these, they create an enemy that everybody can get behind, and they're like that everybody hates this group of people because they did this evil thing. So let's all pick on them and attack them. And they made them suffer. They made them go through hell, and it ended up creating the monster that they were so scared of. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's tragic because what they show you in this show is children, literal children being indoctrinated and sent out to fight these wars for the adults. Like they they are dying in the place of the people who are actually starting the war and want it to happen. The people who are actually benefiting from the war aren't doing any of the fighting. That's real life. That actually happens. It's happening today. Like that on planet Earth right now. That is happening. And nothing frustrates me quite like children being sent to war or being victims of war, because they haven't done any wrong. They've done nothing wrong. They don't deserve it. But there are children who are experiencing having limbs blown off or waking up to a dead sibling or a crushed house. It's tragic and it's wrong, and it shouldn't happen. But it does happen because people are selfish and greedy and have way too much power. And not enough people are willing to do something about it. Far too many people are willing to make excuses and say that it's necessary. You do what you have to do. What I like about Attack on Titan is that it approaches these subjects, and I'm personally a very big fan of art that in media that forces you to forces me to what's the word, confront uncomfortable situations and topics, especially when it's things like this. It's like that's very real. That is a lot of people's reality, and it's very sad. But Attack on Titan does a very good job of being a commentary on these sorts of things. Towards the end, when the good guys are having to kill the people that they grew up calling friends, and the good guys, right? We say that it's Armin has a really good line where he says that good, let me see if I can get this right. It's like good is the people who support your cause or help you, help you with your goals. Like that's what we call good. And I personally very strongly resonate with that. For a very long time now, I've, I grew up religious, and I had this concept of objective good and evil kind of forced onto me from birth. And I really held to that for a really long time, most of my life. And I think I've come to realize that it's not subjective necessarily, but relative. That good and evil are perspective based, right? And it's everybody has their own sense of morality and what is just and what is right. And the thing about Attack on Titan is that everybody in the show makes good points. Not everybody, but like the three like major sides of everything that's going on. And it all comes down to, it all bottlenecks to a common enemy, you know. But then it's going to fan back out again. And they show that during the credits. They show, years of peace and building civilization and stuff. And then they show more war. And it's in like clips throughout like we see like a somewhat futuristic, like cyberpunk-esque society towards the end. I mean, these are just quick, like little snippets. And we see missile launchers and stuff. And, it's war always comes back around because it's just human nature, unfortunately, to, eventually come back to that point where somebody's born that wants more than they deserve and just takes and takes and takes and leaves nothing for anyone else. And they don't care what sacrifices they have to make or what other people have to make in their stead. And it's very tragic. And it makes me wonder, the show gave me a lot to think about. Because I wanted to believe that world peace is possible, I think everybody wants to believe that. That someday we'll all understand each other and we'll get along and we'll work things out. And this may seem doom and gloom. I mean, I'm a bit of a pessimist when it comes to humanity. I believe the world would be a better place without us. I truly, genuinely believe that. But we're here. The earth is not without us. We exist. And we have to work with that. But I personally, I think, I don't believe that world peace is, that lasting world peace is possible. Not because it can't be done, but because it won't. Not because we lack the ability to make it happen, but that we refuse to make it happen. And we can't get everyone to agree on it. And I struggle with that. I'm like, I personally, I agree, like obviously I agree with Armin and Mikasa and that I'm like, well, yeah, these children shouldn't have to, innocent people shouldn't have to suffer because of people who aren't, the people that do wrong, other innocent people shouldn't have to suffer or die because of that. But then I also understand where Aaron's coming from. Not in the sake of just protecting his own and everybody else has to go. I mean, I get where that comes from and how he arrived at that conclusion. I don't agree with it. But I can agree that the only way to stop that cycle is for humanity to not exist. I truly believe that that's the only option. Because it's just how humans are. And not all of us, right? But we can't, The people who are good might give birth to somebody who's not. And I really think that, I actually don't really get Zeke's thing all that much. It's just like, oh yeah, we'll just let him die out. I don't know. I can kind of understand it, I guess, but I don't know. I don't want to spoil too much either, because if you haven't watched the show, I highly recommend it. If you like that sort of thing, if you like the more serious, dark-toned stories, then it's definitely for you. I think it's very philosophical, which I enjoy in shows. I like shows that make me think. Yeah, it was very tragic, and I have legitimately never ever cried that hard watching something before. During the last couple episodes, I was sobbing, literally out loud weeping. It never happened to me before. I've cried during stuff, obviously, like We Live in Time. I cried really hard doing that, but I was not out loud sobbing. The show had me out loud sobbing. It was rough. It was rough, but it's so beautiful. It was incredibly, incredibly well done, especially the last two seasons. Just amazing. There's so much. There's not really. Even the good guys are killing people who aren't necessarily guilty of anything. They're just like, you're in the way, and we have to get past you to save all these people. It's it's hard to watch and to process. It really helps put into perspective that there isn't really good guys and bad guys, but there are, you know, well, I don't know. I would say there are bad guys. There are evil people out there, but they're evil to my standards and to most people's standards. But that's all it is personal standards. And we hold people to that. And that's just how the world works. But that show gave me a lot to think about, and I mean, almost immediately shot up to um, top three shows for me. Arcane and Castlevania is still probably a bit above it. Um, but I highly recommend the show. Very, very good. Very good. Very well made. Animation was beautiful. The storytelling was incredible. The characters are just wow. You get so attached to characters, and then they just rip them away from you. It's fucked. Uh, but it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful and tragic story. I think if I keep going, I'm just gonna repeat myself. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you've seen the show. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, or if you have shows you'd like to recommend me of a similar ilk. Let me know. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.